Have you ever felt caught in a quiet war inside your own mind? On one side, there's the relentless drive to improve. It's the voice that tells you to wake up earlier, to push harder at the gym, to finally write that business plan. It's the part of you that buys the books, listens to the podcasts, and knows, deep down, you are capable of so much more. It looks at your life and says, we need to fix this. But then, there's the other side. A softer, more modern voice, whispering the gospel of self-acceptance. It tells you to be kind to yourself, to love your flaws, to embrace who you are right now. It warns you that this constant striving for more is a form of self-rejection, a refusal to be happy with what you have. It looks at your ambition and asks, if you're always trying to fix yourself, do you even like who you are? And so you stand there, frozen in the middle of this internal battlefield. You feel guilty when you rest, and you feel exhausted when you push. You're told to practice radical acceptance, but you also feel the urgent need for radical change. This contradiction isn't just confusing, it's paralyzing. It's the reason why so many of our best intentions die before they even have a chance to breathe. But what if this entire war is based on a false premise? What if the push to improve and the art of self-acceptance aren't enemies at all? What if the most profound act of self-love isn't just accepting the person you are today, but loving the person you could become in the future enough to do the hard work now? The principles you're about to hear aren't punishments for your past mistakes. They are not blades meant to carve out the parts of you that you hate. Think of them instead as the tools you need to build a shelter for your future self. They are acts of profound care, a way to build a foundation so strong that the storms of life can no longer shake you. This isn't just ancient philosophy. It's a framework for living that modern psychology is now proving to be one of the most effective paths to resilience and genuine, lasting peace. So if you're tired of the war, tired of the guilt, and ready to move forward not with self-criticism, but with clear-eyed, compassionate discipline, then you are in the right place. Let's begin the work of building. Let's start with the first and most foundational rule, because without it, nothing else we discuss today can take root. You must kill the victim mentality. Imagine this. You're driving to an important appointment, and another car cuts you off, forcing you to slam on the brakes. Your heart pounds, adrenaline surges, and your mind instantly floods with a narrative. That guy is a complete jerk. Why does this always happen to me? Now my whole day is ruined. For the next 10 minutes, you replay the event, your anger simmering, your sense of injustice growing. You arrive at your appointment flustered and distracted. The other driver, who has long forgotten the incident, has just successfully controlled your emotional state from miles away. This is the victim mentality in its most common form. It's a reflexive, almost addictive, habit of placing the cause of our internal state on external events. The bad driver, the demanding boss, the inconsiderate partner, the unfair economy. The list is endless. And while your feelings might be justified, the driver was, in fact, a jerk. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus would remind us of a brutal truth: it is not things that upset us, but our judgments about things. The real trap of the victim narrative isn't just that it makes you feel bad. It's that it makes you powerless. Every time you say, "He made me angry," or "This situation is stressing me out," you are handing over the keys to your own mind. You are explicitly stating that something or someone outside of you has more control over your well-being than you do. This isn't a philosophical abstraction, modern psychology confirms it. Studies on what's called the locus of control show that individuals who consistently attribute their failures and frustrations to external forces, an external locus of control, are more prone to anxiety, depression, and a pervasive sense of helplessness. It creates a state of chronic, low-grade stress, because if the world is the problem, then you are forever at its mercy. To kill the victim mentality is to make a profound shift in your language and, therefore, in your thinking. It's the move from, "Why is this happening to me?" to, "What am I going to do about it?" Let's take a more serious example. Perhaps you were genuinely wronged in the past. You experienced a betrayal that left deep scars. The victim narrative says, "My trust issues are their fault. I can't get close to people because of what they did to me. This story, while true, keeps you chained to the past. The empowering narrative, the Stoic narrative, asks a different set of questions. Yes, the betrayal happened. It was unjust. But why did I ignore the red flags? What part of me was drawn to that situation? What can I learn from this pain so that I can build healthier relationships in the future? This isn't about blaming yourself. It's about reclaiming your agency. It's about shifting your focus from the wound to the lesson. The wound was inflicted by others, but the healing is, and always will be, your responsibility. No one is coming to do that work for you. Your friends can offer sympathy, your therapist can offer tools, but only you can decide to stop defining your present by the pain of your past. This practice begins with small, daily acts of radical responsibility. Your alarm goes off. Instead of thinking, I have to go to work, think, I choose to go to work because I value providing for my family. You miss a deadline. Instead of listing the external reasons, start with the internal one, I mismanaged my time. Someone criticizes your work. Instead of feeling attacked, ask, is there any truth in what they're saying that I can use to improve? This isn't about pretending external factors don't exist. They do. The world can be unfair. People can be cruel. But the Stoic understands that the only path to strength and tranquility is to draw a hard line in the sand. On one side are the things you cannot control, the traffic, the economy, the actions of others. On the other side is the one thing you have absolute dominion over, your response. Your life will begin to change the moment you decide to pour 100% of your energy into your side of that line. Stop waiting for the world to become fair. Stop waiting for an apology that may never come. Your power isn't out there. It's right here. And your first act of reclaiming it is to fire the narrator who keeps telling you that you're a victim. You are not. You are the protagonist, and it's time to start acting like it. Once you've stopped blaming the world for your circumstances, the next layer of work begins. It requires you to look inward and answer a deeply uncomfortable question: where does your sense of value truly come from? This leads us to the second rule: stop outsourcing your self-worth. You spend a week preparing a presentation for your team. You've done the research, crafted the slides, and practiced your delivery. The moment comes, you present it, and the room is silent. No applause, no "great job," just a few polite nods before the conversation moves on to the next agenda item. In the hours that follow, how do you feel? Do you find yourself replaying every slide, dissecting every sentence, wondering what you did wrong? Does the silence of your colleagues feel like a verdict on your competence? Or consider this, a more modern dilemma. You post a photo online, perhaps a proud moment with your kids, a vacation snapshot, or a reflection on a book you've read. The hours tick by, and the notifications are sparse. A quiet anxiety begins to creep in. You wonder, was it not as interesting as I thought? Am I just invisible? If these scenarios feel familiar, you have located a vulnerability in your foundation. You have outsourced your self-worth. You've made your sense of value contingent on something entirely outside of your control: the approval, applause, and attention of other people. To live this way is to be in a constant state of emotional precarity. Every compliment is a temporary high, and every perceived slight is a personal attack. You're not living your life, you're auditioning for it, and you've made everyone else the judge. The Stoics saw this as a fundamental error in living. Marcus Aurelius, a man who faced constant criticism and the immense pressure of ruling an empire, wrote it down with piercing clarity in his private journals: ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. Sanity means tying it to your own actions. This isn't just ancient wisdom, it's a diagnosis of a modern epidemic. Scientific research has now drawn a clear line between excessive social media use and diminished self-esteem. But it's crucial we understand the nuance here, especially for our generation. The problem isn't connection, it's the pursuit of validation. Using technology to maintain genuine bonds with family and friends can be a source of great support. But when we start using it as a scorecard for our worth, measuring our lives in likes, shares, and comments, we enter a dangerous game rigged against us. We're chasing a feeling, not building a reality. So, how do you take back control? You start by intentionally shifting your focus from the external outcome to the internal principle. You must become the primary audience for your own life. When you finish a workout, the real victory isn't posting a sweaty selfie. The victory is the moment you chose to honor the promise you made to your health, long before you ever picked up your phone. When you read a book to your child at night, the value isn't in the heartwarming picture it might make, it's in the quiet, unseen act of connection itself. When you complete a project at work, learn to find satisfaction in the quality of the work you produced, in the integrity of your effort, before anyone else even has a chance to comment on it. Here is a practical exercise. This week, do something you are proud of, and tell no one. It could be a small act of kindness for a stranger, finishing a chapter of a difficult book, or decluttering a room you've been avoiding for months. Complete the act, feel the quiet satisfaction of your own effort, and then simply move on. Don't document it. Don't mention it. Let the action be its own reward. Each time you do this, you are laying a new brick in the foundation of your self-worth. These bricks aren't made of the flimsy material of public opinion, they are forged from your own principled actions. Over time, you build a structure so solid that the winds of criticism or indifference can no longer shake you. You stop needing the world to tell you you're valuable, because you are busy being valuable. And paradoxically, when you stop seeking recognition, you begin to command a deeper, more authentic kind of respect, not because you're performing, but because you're living with integrity. So, you've decided to stop blaming the world, and you're committed to building your self-worth from the inside out. This is a monumental step. But all of that hard work can be demolished in a single moment if you haven't mastered the third rule: you must own your reactions, or you will fall. You can be the most disciplined, principled, and hard-working person, but if you are emotionally reactive, you are building a beautiful house on a foundation of sand. Every unexpected gust of wind, a critical comment, a perceived injustice, a minor inconvenience, threatens to bring the entire structure crashing down. You're not living a life of intention, you're just ricocheting from one emotional trigger to the next. Let's make this real. You send a thoughtful, vulnerable text message to your partner or a close friend. You see the read receipt appear. Then, nothing. 5 minutes pass. Then 15. An hour later, still silence. A story immediately begins to write itself in your mind. They're ignoring me. They must be angry. I said something wrong. Here we go again, I'm not important to them. A storm of anxiety and resentment starts to brew, all because of a single, neutral event. A message has not yet been answered. Look closely at what happened. The external reality was simply a lack of a reply. But your reaction to that reality created a cascade of suffering. That suffering didn't come from their phone, it came from the narrative in your head. And that is the place where you must intervene. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This isn't a passive, philosophical platitude. It is the core instruction for a powerful life. Your power does not lie in controlling other people's behavior. You will never be able to guarantee a prompt reply, a polite driver, or a fair boss. Your true, inalienable power lies in the small space between what happens to you and how you choose to respond. And right now, you may be giving that power away for free, multiple times a day. Imagine you're standing in a long line for coffee, and someone brazenly cuts in front of you. The primal response is a surge of indignation. Your blood pressure rises. You feel the urge to speak up, to shame them, to restore justice to the coffee line. And you could. It might even feel good for a moment. But consider an alternative. You could also take a breath, raise an eyebrow, and consciously choose to do nothing. You could let them go ahead. This choice is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of immense strength. It's a declaration that your internal peace for the next 5 minutes is more valuable than their rudeness. You are refusing to let a stranger hijack your emotional state with a minor transgression. Anger, in this moment, doesn't prove you're strong. It proves your buttons are easy to push. This is the practice. It's not a mystical skill reserved for monks on a mountaintop. It starts with a simple, deliberate pause. The next time you feel that flash of anger, that sting of rejection, that surge of defensiveness, stop. Don't speak. Don't type. Don't hit send. Just for 5 seconds. In that pause, breathe. Then, identify the feeling. Name it without judgment. This is anger. This is hurt. I feel disrespected. The act of naming it creates distance. It separates you, the observer, from the emotion itself. And in that sliver of space you have just created, you get to choose. You can choose the old, automatic reaction, or you can choose a new, deliberate one. That is the moment you take your power back. Real freedom isn't the ability to do whatever you want in the world. It's the world losing its ability to make you do whatever it wants. It is the quiet, unshakable foundation of maturity. Now that we've laid the foundation, taking responsibility, owning your worth, and mastering your reactions, we arrive at the heart of the matter. All of this foundational work is designed to give you the stability to perform the most crucial act of transformation. This brings us to Rule 4, you must burn the old script. Think of your life as a long-running play. From a very young age, you were handed a script. Perhaps a parent, trying to be helpful, labeled you, the sensitive one. Maybe a teacher offhandedly remarked that you weren't a natural at math. Or perhaps after a few failed attempts at a new hobby, you wrote a line for yourself, I'm the person who always quits. For years, even decades, you have been performing this role with flawless consistency. You live inside a story where the main character is predefined, as impulsive, as undisciplined, as anxious, as someone who just can't seem to get their life together. You know the lines by heart. You anticipate the plot twists. And the ending is always the same. The tragedy is, you've been playing this part for so long, you've forgotten that you are both the actor and the director. You mistake the script for reality. This internal script is the invisible force that sabotages your best efforts. You can buy the gym membership, but if your script says you're lazy, you will find a reason not to go. You can start the new business venture, but if your script says you're doomed to fail, you will unconsciously make decisions that lead to that very outcome. You are trying to build a new building on top of a rotten foundation. You're trimming the branches while the root remains diseased. Stoic philosophy teaches that what truly holds us back isn't the event itself, but our perception of it. And the most powerful perception you have is the one you hold about yourself. So, how do you change it? Not with affirmations. Not with positive thinking alone. You do it with the one thing the old script cannot argue with, contradictory action. Your identity is not fixed. It is the cumulative summary of your actions. If you want to change your identity, you must start feeding it new evidence. If your internal script says you are a procrastinator, your mission today is not to become a productivity guru. Your mission is to complete one single, important task before you allow yourself to get distracted. Just one. That single action is a new line in the script. If your script says you are unreliable, your mission is to be 10 minutes early for every commitment you have this week. Don't announce it. Just do it. Your punctuality becomes a fact that contradicts the fiction. If your script says you are not a healthy person, your mission is not to run a marathon. It's to put on your shoes and walk for 20 minutes. Today. That walk is a vote for a new identity. The first few times you do this, it will feel fake. It will feel uncomfortable. Your mind will scream that you are an imposter. It will try to pull you back to the familiar, comfortable role you've always played. You must recognize this discomfort for what it is, the sound of the old script burning. It's the sign that you are winning. You don't need a moment of grand revelation to change your life. You need a series of small, defiant acts. Each one is a quiet rebellion against the tyranny of your old story. Each one proves that the old labels no longer apply. So ask yourself, are you living your own life, or are you just performing a role you were handed years ago? Every single action you take is an answer. You've committed to burning the old script by taking new, contradictory actions. But very quickly, you will come face to face with a powerful enemy. It's not laziness. It's not a lack of desire. It's the seductive, modern myth of motivation. This brings us to rule number 5, a principle that will fundamentally change how you approach personal growth: rely on a system, not on sheer willpower. We have been sold a lie. The lie is that to change your life, you need to feel a powerful surge of inspiration. We watch motivational videos, listen to epic soundtracks, and wait for that magical moment when we finally feel like doing the hard work. But what happens on a cold Tuesday morning when the magic is gone? What happens when you're tired, discouraged, and the last thing you feel is motivated? This is where most journeys of self-improvement come to a grinding halt. We blame ourselves for not having enough willpower, for not being strong enough. But what if willpower isn't the point? What if the people who seem to have superhuman self-control aren't actually battling temptations all day long? The answer lies in one of the most practical findings of modern psychology. Researchers have identified a phenomenon called ego depletion, which suggests that our willpower is a finite resource, much like a muscle. Every time you exert self-control, resisting a donut, forcing yourself to focus, holding back an angry comment, you deplete that resource. If you rely on fighting battles all day, by the evening, your willpower muscle will be exhausted. This is why you can eat a healthy salad for lunch with heroic resolve, but find yourself unable to resist a pint of ice cream at 9 p.m. Your defenses are down. You haven't failed, your system has. The most successful, disciplined people on earth don't have more willpower than you. They simply understand this principle and design their lives to conserve their willpower. They don't win through constant struggle, they win by creating systems that make the right choice the easiest choice. They build habits that run on autopilot, requiring almost no conscious effort or motivation. Think about it. You don't need a jolt of inspiration to brush your teeth in the morning. It's not a question of willpower. It's a non-negotiable part of your system. The goal is to elevate the new actions you want to take, your workout, your writing practice, your healthy eating, to that same level of automaticity. So, how do you do it? You stop negotiating with your feelings and start setting up a smarter environment. If you want to exercise in the morning, your system isn't, I will find the motivation to work out. Your system is laying out your gym clothes the night before. The moment your alarm goes off, your only job is to put them on. That's the first domino. The system carries you from there. If you want to stop endlessly scrolling on your phone, your system isn't, I will resist the urge to check social media. Your system is leaving your phone in another room after 8 p.m. or setting a black and white screen timer that makes it boring and unappealing. You remove the temptation rather than fighting it. If you want to write a book, your system isn't, I will write when inspiration strikes. Your system is opening your laptop at the same time, in the same place, every single day, and writing 300 words. Even if they're terrible. You are training your brain to associate that time and place with the act of writing. You are automating the cue. Discipline is not about being a robot. It's the ultimate form of freedom. It frees you from the exhausting daily debate with your weaker self. The person who relies on motivation is always asking, do I feel like it today? The person who relies on a system simply says, it's 6 a.m. This is what we do at 6 a.m. Stop trying to be a hero who valiantly fights temptation all day. Become an architect. Design a life, an environment, and a schedule where the person you want to become has the easiest path forward. Don't put your faith in a fleeting feeling like motivation. Put your faith in the alarm clock that goes off at the same time every day. Put your faith in the gym bag you packed the night before. That is the engine of real, sustainable change. You have designed your system. You have committed to the small, consistent actions that build a new identity. But in the modern world, even the most perfect system is under constant attack from an invisible, relentless enemy, distraction. This brings us to a rule that is less about adding a new practice and more about defending the territory you've just claimed. You must guard your focus as if your life depends on it. Because it does. Imagine you are trying to build your house, brick by brick. But every 30 seconds, a stranger runs by and steals one of your tools. You chase them down, retrieve your hammer, and return, only to find someone else has made off with your level. You would never get anything built. You would spend your entire day in a state of frustrated reaction, never making meaningful progress. This is what is happening to your mind every single day. Every non-essential notification that buzzes on your phone, every clickbait headline you glance at, every time you reflexively open a social media app, just for a minute, these are not harmless interruptions. They are the thieves of your most precious, non-renewable resource, your attention. Wherever your attention goes, your life follows. It is the currency with which you build your reality. If your attention is scattered, your life will be scattered. If your attention is shallow, your life will be shallow. You cannot build a life of depth, purpose, and peace if the tool you use to build it, your focus, is constantly being shattered into 1,000 tiny pieces. Can you truly connect with your partner if, while they are speaking, a part of your mind is still lingering on a work email you just saw? Can you solve a complex problem if your train of thought is derailed every 7 minutes by a group chat notification? The answer is no. This isn't a failure of character, it's a failure of defense. You are allowing your mind, your most sacred space, to become a public thoroughfare. The practice of reclaiming your focus must be as deliberate as building a fortress. Start by turning off every single notification on your phone and computer that is not mission critical. You do not need to know the second someone likes your photo or a store announces a sale. This single act is the equivalent of building a wall around your construction site. Next, schedule blocks of deep work or deep connection into your day. For 60 or 90 minutes, put your phone in another room. No exceptions. This is you, posting a guard at the gate. When you are with people, be fully with them. Look them in the eye. Listen not just to respond, but to understand. When you work, just work. When you read, just read. Practice single tasking as a form of meditation. In today's economy, your attention is the product being sold. Companies spend billions of dollars to hijack it and sell it to the highest bidder. The question is, how much longer will you let them? Guarding your focus isn't a productivity hack. It is an act of rebellion. It is the declaration that your mind is your own, and it is not for sale. You are guarding your focus. You are building systems to make progress automatic. But there is a silent saboteur that can undermine all of this work, and it's especially dangerous because it disguises itself as a friend. It's the quiet, deadly poison you call comfort. This brings us to Rule 7, you must learn to distinguish between recovery and escape. In the name of self-care and mental health, we have perfected the art of sophisticated justification. We stay up late binge-watching a series and call it me time. We indulge in food that we know will make us feel sluggish tomorrow and call it a well-deserved treat. We scroll endlessly through social media feeds and call it decompressing. But we must be brutally honest with ourselves. Is this comfort actually restoring us, or is it merely helping us run from the life we know we should be living? There is a profound difference between rest that recharges and comfort that sedates. True recovery, a good night's sleep, a nourishing meal, a quiet walk in nature, time spent with loved ones, fills your tank so you can get back in the driver's seat. The poison of false comfort, however, just drains your battery while convincing you that you're plugging in. It's the recliner that feels good on your back but slowly weakens your spine. Ask yourself, how many times have you delayed an important task because you just weren't in the mood? How often have you reached for your phone to avoid a difficult conversation or a challenging project? That is the bait. Comfort promises a moment of relief, a temporary escape from the pressure. But the invisible cost is immense. Each time you choose the easy distraction, you weaken your willpower, dull your edge, and postpone the future you claim to want. You are not exhausted from overwork. You are exhausted from the mental friction of thinking about the work you are avoiding. The procrastination is more tiring than the task itself. So, here's the question you must tape to your mirror, to your computer, to your soul: is this comfort moving me toward the life I want, or is it just making me feel better about staying where I am? When you choose to close the laptop and go for a walk to clear your head so you can come back and finish your work, that is recovery. When you choose to keep scrolling through an app for another hour because you don't feel like facing your responsibilities, that is escape. It is a subtle but critical distinction. Learning to see it is a superpower. It requires you to be a detective in your own life, constantly investigating the true motive behind your desires. Don't let the language of self-love become a clever excuse for self-sabotage. Your future self is begging you to learn the difference. You are now defending your mind from distraction and your willpower from the poison of false comfort. You are building a life of intention. But as you walk this path, you will inevitably encounter one of the most powerful social forces known to man, the magnetic pull of the crowd. This will force you to confront our 8th rule, which requires a unique kind of courage: you must crush the need to be liked. Picture yourself at a dinner table with friends, or in a conference room with colleagues. A topic comes up, and the group consensus quickly forms around an opinion you don't share. You feel a familiar tension in your chest. A voice inside you says, "Speak your truth." But another, louder voice whispers, "Don't rock the boat. Just nod along. It's easier this way." So you stay silent, or worse, you offer a faint, non-committal agreement. You choose to be liked over being honest. In that small moment of self-betrayal, a piece of you dies. It may seem trivial, but the cumulative effect of these moments is devastating. Each time you silence your own perspective to gain approval, you are sending a powerful message to yourself: what other people think of me is more important than what I think of myself. You slowly trade your integrity for acceptance, until one day you look in the mirror and realize the person staring back is just a carefully constructed performance, an echo of other people's expectations. For many of us, this fear is rooted in deep experiences. As one viewer commented, a history of being bullied can create a lifelong fear of people not liking you, a defensive crouch that makes you believe the world is a dangerous place. You learn that fitting in is a survival mechanism. You build a comfort zone not of laziness, but of social invisibility. You become so adept at pleasing others that you forget what it feels like to please yourself. The Stoics taught that this is a form of slavery. If your emotional well-being depends on the ever-shifting opinions of the crowd, you are not free. The philosopher Epictetus was ruthless on this point. He said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." This doesn't mean you should be intentionally abrasive or seek out conflict. It is not a license for arrogance. It is a call to anchor your actions in your own values, not in the fluctuating approval of the audience. It means that when you must choose between your integrity and their applause, you choose integrity. So how do you practice this difficult virtue? You start in low-stakes environments. The next time a friend recommends a movie they loved but you found boring, instead of saying, "Oh yeah, it was great," try a gentle, honest response: "You know, it wasn't for me, but I'm glad you enjoyed it." Notice that the world doesn't end. Before you post something online, ask yourself a hard question: am I sharing this to express something authentic, or am I posting a version of my life that I think will get the most likes? Choose authenticity. Identify your 3 core values. Write them down. When you face a decision, whether it's how you spend your time, your money, or your energy, use those values as your compass, not the perceived expectations of your family, your friends, or your social circle. Living this way is not easy. You may be misunderstood. Some people may fall away. But the reward is immeasurable. It is the profound peace of living an integrated life. It is the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are not a performance. And paradoxically, it is the only way to form true, lasting connections. People will finally be able to connect with the real you, not the character you've been playing. The few who are drawn to your authentic self will form a bond far stronger than the fragile approval of the many. That is not loneliness, that is freedom. And now we arrive at the very heart of the conflict we identified at the beginning of our journey. It's the question that likely resonates most deeply with our audience, a question born directly from your insightful comments: where does the relentless project of self-mastery end, and the gentle art of self-acceptance begin? Is this path of brutal rules just a sophisticated form of self-criticism? This is a vital, brilliant question. Because many of us carry a deep-seated fear that the desire to change is a rejection of who we are. We've been told to love ourselves, flaws and all, and so the act of setting a strict rule or pushing ourselves through discomfort can feel like a betrayal of that principle. It can feel like we're treating ourselves like an enemy that needs to be conquered, not a person who needs to be cared for. Today, we will dismantle that false dichotomy with the help of both ancient wisdom and modern neuroscience. This brings us to rule number 9, which reframes everything: the most powerful engine for change is not self-criticism, but self-compassion. For decades, we've operated under the assumption that being hard on ourselves is the key to success. We believe that the inner drill sergeant who shouts insults and points out our every flaw is the one who will whip us into shape. But groundbreaking research, led by psychologists like Dr. Kristen Neff, has proven this to be fundamentally wrong. In fact, it's dangerously counterproductive. Neuroscience shows that when you engage in harsh self-criticism, you activate your brain's threat defense system. It's the same system that lights up when you're being chased by a predator. Your body is flooded with cortisol, the stress hormone. You are, quite literally, attacking yourself. In this state of threat, your primary motivations are fear, anxiety, and shame. It narrows your focus, makes you afraid to take risks, and paradoxically, leads to a higher likelihood of procrastination and giving up. Who wants to even start a task if the punishment for failure is a vicious internal lashing? Self-compassion, on the other hand, activates a completely different system in the brain, the mammalian caregiving system. When you treat yourself with kindness and understanding after a failure, your brain releases oxytocin, the same hormone that bonds a mother to her child. It soothes you, makes you feel safe, and fosters a desire to heal and grow. It doesn't eliminate the pain of failure, but it changes your relationship to it. A self-critical voice says, "You failed the test, you're an idiot." A self-compassionate voice says, "You failed the test." That feels terrible, and it's okay to be disappointed. What can we learn from this? How can we prepare differently next time because I want you to succeed? Do you see the difference? The second voice is not permissive. It does not say failure is acceptable. It holds you to a high standard, but it does so from a place of love, not fear. It is the voice of a wise and caring coach, not a tyrannical drill sergeant. Now, let's look back at all the brutal rules we've discussed through this new lens. Choosing discipline over motivation isn't an act of self-punishment. It is an act of self-compassion for your future self, who deserves to live a life free from the chaos of impulsivity. Doing hard things without excuse isn't about proving you're tough. It's an act of self-compassion that says, "I care enough about you to help you expand your comfort zone, because I know your best life is on the other side of this temporary discomfort." Taking radical responsibility and killing the victim mentality is not about blaming yourself. It is the ultimate act of self-compassion, a declaration that you respect yourself enough to believe you are the powerful, creative force in your own life. This is the key. The drive to improve yourself doesn't come from a place of hating who you are now. It must come from a place of loving who you could become enough to take the necessary steps. The Stoic concept of amor fati, loving your fate, is not about passive resignation. It's about radically accepting your starting point, your flaws, your past mistakes, without judgment. You accept it all as the raw material you have been given to work with. And then, out of love and compassion for yourself, you begin the noble work of building something beautiful with it. We have journeyed through the mind, untangled the paradox of self-acceptance and self-improvement, and laid out the principles for a life of intention. But all of this remains a beautiful, abstract theory without our 10th and final rule, the one that grounds philosophy in reality: let your actions do the talking. You say you value your health, but last night you stayed up until 2 a.m. scrolling through your phone, knowing it would sabotage your energy today. You say you want to be more present with your family, yet during dinner, your mind was drifting, and you barely registered the story your child was telling you. You claim to be studying a philosophy of resilience, yet you lose your temper over a minor inconvenience. There is a gap between the person you say you want to be and the person your actions prove you to be. And this gap is more than just hypocrisy, it is the source of a deep, internal corrosion. It is the slow erosion of the single most important relationship you will ever have, the one you have with yourself. Every time you say one thing and do another, you are teaching yourself that your word is meaningless. You are training your own mind not to trust you. Think about that. If a friend constantly made promises to you, "I'll be there at 7, you can count on me, I'll help you with that," and repeatedly failed to show up, what would happen to your trust in them? It would evaporate. You would learn not to rely on them. Now, apply that same standard to yourself. Every time you hit the snooze button after promising yourself you'd wake up early, you break a contract with yourself. Every time you indulge in a habit you swore you would quit, you prove to yourself that your commitments are hollow. This creates a state of low-grade anxiety and low self-esteem that has nothing to do with what other people think of you. It's the quiet, gut-wrenching knowledge that you cannot count on you. Stoicism was never meant to be a collection of quotes for a journal. Epictetus didn't care if his students could recite his lectures. He cared about how they behaved when insulted, how they acted when faced with loss, how they conducted themselves when no one was watching. That was the real test. Because your values do not live in your thoughts. They are not defined by your intentions. They are forged, moment by moment, in the furnace of your choices. The world doesn't need to hear about your philosophy. It needs to see it. Your children don't learn from your lectures on integrity, they learn by watching you live with integrity. Your team isn't inspired by your speeches about excellence, they are inspired by the excellence of your work. Your words can paint a beautiful picture, but your actions are the sculpture. They have weight, dimension, and truth. So, how do we close the gap? How do we rebuild that sacred trust with ourselves? You start smaller. Forget grand, sweeping declarations. If you value kindness, don't just think about it. Who will you be kind to today? Will you let a car merge in front of you? Will you listen patiently to a colleague without interrupting? The action is the proof. If you value discipline, don't just talk about it. Did you make your bed this morning? Did you complete the first task on your to-do list without distraction? The action is the proof. This is how you rebuild self-trust, brick by painful, deliberate brick. You start making and keeping promises to yourself, promises so small you cannot possibly fail. I will drink a glass of water before I have my coffee. Keep that promise. I will read for 10 minutes before I turn on the television. Keep that promise. Each one is a deposit in your account of self-respect. The goal is to become a person whose word is ironclad, first and foremost to yourself. The moment you begin to act in alignment with your stated values, the internal dissonance begins to fade. The anxiety quiets down. A deep, unshakable confidence begins to grow, not the arrogant confidence of someone who thinks they're better than others, but the quiet strength of someone who knows they can rely on themselves. So today, will you keep talking, or will you start building? You have made it through to the end. We have journeyed through 10 principles that are not meant to be easy, but are designed to be transformative. We've taken apart the engine of our own suffering, from the temptation to blame others to the quiet poison of comfort. We've wrestled with the profound difference between the validation we crave and the value we must build for ourselves. But 10 rules can be a lot to hold on to. So let's distill this entire philosophy down to its actionable essence, to the 3 core movements that the most insightful among you have already identified. If you remember nothing else, remember this. The entire project of fixing your mind and fixing your life comes down to 3 fundamental shifts. First, you stop blaming and start owning. You cease to be the narrator of your own tragedy and become the protagonist of your own growth. You accept, with clear eyes, that while you cannot control what happens in the world, you have absolute dominion over your response. This is where your power has been hiding. Second, you stop seeking validation and start building integrity. You pull your sense of self-worth back from the chaotic world of opinions, likes, and external approval. You anchor it firmly in your own principled actions, becoming the primary audience for your own life. You learn that the quiet satisfaction of keeping a promise to yourself is worth more than all the applause in the world. And third, most importantly, you stop talking and start doing. You understand that self-respect is not a thought, it is an earned reality. It is built brick by brick, with every small, deliberate action that aligns with the person you claim you want to be. You close the gap between your words and your actions, and in doing so, you finally learn to trust yourself again. The journey we've outlined today is not about achieving a flawless, perfect state of being. That is an illusion. This is about becoming real. It's about having the courage to look at your own life, at your own contradictions, and choose to build something better, not out of self-hatred, but out of a profound and compassionate commitment to your own potential. The goal isn't to never feel pain again. The goal is to become someone who is strong enough to walk through it, to learn from it, and to continue building. Your life is a reflection of what you tolerate, what you delay, and what you refuse to change. But you are not a statue. You are a sculptor. And at any moment, you have the power to pick up the chisel and begin again. So now, I turn it over to you. We began by talking about the internal conflict between self-improvement and self-acceptance. In the comments below, I invite you to share, what is the biggest conflict or contradiction you are facing in your own journey of change? Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to read to feel less alone. And if this conversation meant something to you, subscribe. Our work here is not done. The goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to be real.